Hi there. Today we're going to talk about purpose. I like to look at it more of a legacy piece. It feels bigger to me, it has more draw to it. But what is your purpose? What is the legacy that you will leave on this planet when you go? Can you have more than one? Can you change it if you find that that one's not a fit? Stay tuned. Today's episode, we're going to dive deep into why are we here? What are we doing? Stay tuned. Small habits, big changes. Let's dive in. Welcome back. Today's episode, we're going to talk about your purpose. Now, I don't know what it is, but hopefully with a few anecdotes and maybe some insight, I'm planting seeds. You can reiterate yours or develop yours on your own. I was actually searching for a topic for today's episode, and I was chatting with my sister and said, what do you want to hear about? And of course, after 25, 30 years of planting seeds and silently and not so silently encouraging her to take care of herself better and not so much follow after our father, who really let his physical state deteriorate because he was such a worker. He had a very strong purpose, and it got a little out of balance, as many of us who like to work or at least like to see things accomplished can empathize and we understand firsthand. But I reached out to her, and she said that she's been watching this other guy online, and it's really funny because this young fella is probably half my age. He's saying almost verbatim things that I've said for the last 2 to 3 decades. We probably have followed the same thought leaders, the same mentors over the years, and so it's funny that after all the planting of the seeds and cultivating the soil, that my sister finds insight in in this young guy. I'm so happy that she's found someone that's a voice for her, and that's really what it's about. 100 people can have the same message, almost verbatim, and it's really about a frequency, about who doesn't trigger you, but who motivates you, who you like to listen to their voice. There's really a myriad of things that could really prompt someone to kind of latch on, but I believe it's more about resonance and a frequency, a vibrant, like a vibration, if you will, that you feel with someone else, and then the message can be absorbed, integrated into your life a little easier. Yeah. So I appreciate her insight. And for the next 2 episodes, actually, I will be executing on her ideas and her thoughts as she's driving the bus. So today we're going to talk about purpose. And really, there's a lot of questions, and she brought up a number of them about how do we know our purpose? How do we figure it out? Once we have one, are we able to change it? Will we ever have more than one? These are great questions, and honestly, hopefully the discussion today will bring to light your answers, because like everything I say, really, I only have my personal experience, even though I've worked with many, many thousands of people in this very vein. I'm not in their body. I'm not in their mind. And so what they've chosen to do and what's worked for them has worked for very specific reasons. I think there is a synchronicity to it all. And hopefully we'll debunk a couple of myths today, but also, and more so, really just encourage you to be still and to listen to maybe what your why is. I heard it said yesterday, and I've heard it many times by a leader of mine, a thought leader of mine, a mentor that I've followed since my early 20s. And he said, we have become human doings versus human beings. And I think therein lies the crux. For every activity in life, for every thing in life, there is a polar opposite, right? So we are doing. So it's only obvious that on the other end of the spectrum, we need to be being, right? I think of it as be, do, have. So first you are the person that you need to be, then you can do the things you need to do, and then you will have the things that you want or need. I think most people have that backwards. They do a lot of the do, have, be. So they go out and they do a bunch of activities, uh, maybe set some goals, meet some goals. Then they have a bunch of things, and then they expect that they will be the person that they're meant to be. And it just doesn't work that way. And we hear story after story after story about that. So I want to just encourage you. And what's worked for me is to think of be, do, have. In order to know who I am, the be part, I need to be still for the most part. That's a challenge for many of us. It has been a challenge for me. I'm not just sitting still is not my game for the most part. Yes, I sit still when I do my breath work. Every day I sit still when I'm getting a massage or acupuncture, and that's really why I push that self-care. Yes, it's about self-care, but secondly, it's a forced relaxation for me. And I go regularly, right? So I'm doing breathing every day, do Qigong, which is very slow being, acupuncture and massage. Geez, even at the dentist, I find it relaxing because I'm just really being still and getting my teeth cleaned, right? So you can find it anywhere, but it doesn't have to look a certain way. For everyone's being like, that's not meditating, or that's not being still. It might not be for you. It is for me. So know that everybody looks a little different. For some people, it's about going on a silent retreat and being quiet, not using their voice for a week or a month. I used to have silent Sundays for years where I would have no electronics on. I would not talk or use my voice, and I found it amazing. I had a lot of internal dialogue, so it's not about silencing or relaxing the mind, if you will, but it was just a shift for me in awareness about what goes on around me, about the noises that are going on, about maybe how much I engage and exert energy where I could be turning that inward and being still. You will find what works for you if you're still enough. It's kind of a trick. It's a little bit of a, you got to be still to figure out what's going on for you. But in order to figure out what's going on for you, you got to be still. In order to be still, you got to figure out a little bit what's going on for you. That cycle. So how do you know your why? I think of it more as, like I said, legacy. It is like there's a bit of a difference between what your why is and purpose. But I think of why as my legacy. So what is it at 150 when I have just evaporated into dust and rejoin fully the ethereal world? What will I have left behind? That's for me to know. And that in and of itself drives me each and every day. I don't need to be motivated. I don't need to drum up motivation. It's an internal motivation to reach my goal or to fulfill my legacy. And that really alters each and every thing that I do throughout the day. And I think when people see some actions that I take or whatever, they may question, like, I wonder why she did that or why she didn't do that. The truth is there is a motivating factor within me that drives every decision. I'm very practical. I always say if my purpose is clear, my decisions are easy. I see a lot of people struggle with their decisions from day to day, whether it's what to wear, what to eat, whether to buy the certain car or not buy the certain car, whether to paint a room or what color to paint it. Very trivial very trivial decisions in my view. And when it comes to me, when I am presented with an option of one or the other, I know my North Star. Like, I know exactly where it is. It doesn't change. I may move around in the world, but the North Star for me is the North Star. It will always be the North Star. And so if I'm out and about and an option comes to me on the road I'm traveling where I believe is headed to the North Star, and I can turn either left or continue forward, regardless of what's to the left, how enticing it may be, if it's an escapism, if it's really alluring or tasty or tempting, it doesn't matter. I'm going forward because I know where my North Star is. Have I ever taken a diversion? Small ones. I turn that way and go, oops, that's not it. Turn back around. I don't turn down to the left and go miles and miles and miles and miles and keep going and then wondering where the fuck I'm at. No, I've trained myself to really look at laser beam to the North Star, keeping my focus there. And when things come onto my plate, it's a really easy no or yes. And I know people have said, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And the truth is, yeah, that is, I mean, there's some real truth in there. Is if it's not going to guide you or continue you on your path, then it's a no. And if it is, then it's a yes, right? So how do you know your path? That's the biggest thing. Let's go back a little to being still. I think the more you are still, the more those little seeds, little opportunities to cultivate, they will appear. Synchronicities, kismet, you might call it, right? Those vibrations, when you're in tune with who you are, like just in tune with your body, in tune with your breath as a physical being, I think that allows you to open up to meeting your spiritual being. I think for me, if your legacy or your purpose is not bigger than you, if it's not spiritually grounded, then it's probably just a goal. Okay. There may be some haters out there or people who disagree because I've seen a slew of comments lately, people being agnostic or even atheist and not believing in something bigger than themselves. And I think that's going to prove to be a real detrimental piece to our future here. If people are not believing in things bigger than themselves, then they won't have a legacy. They won't have purpose, and they will go aimlessly to the left and then back to the right and then to the left, and they won't move forward. They'll do a bunch of this zigzaggy bilateral movement. And I think that we're seeing that now in our culture, in North America anyway, of people not really knowing who they are, what they want, what they're meant to be, the legacy, the imprint they're left to leave behind. And that's hopefully, I'm hopeful that will change and that it is changing, but I feel like it is, there's a divergence where, a good portion of the population are going to be more self-development, more focused on themselves and developing something greater than themselves. And then people that just go about their everyday life, live in the meat suit, bought the ticket and just, kind of willy-nilly going on rides. That's not to say either is right or wrong, because many of these people, I think, that are seeking more enlightenment and seeking more spiritual grounding and thus purpose and legacy and drive, they've been here before. That's my belief. The meat suits, the ones walking around aimlessly, I think they're not all first timers, but they're earlier visitors here. So we're really just we're spiritual beings living a human existence. And I think as humans, we forget that we still need to be. We're not just doers. In fact, now with AI, we're going to learn that doing is not going to be beneficial, and that not as beneficial for many. And if you can hone in on the essence of who you are, the reasons that you're here, what really feels in sync to you, then you'll be irreplaceable, because AI will never fulfill a legacy from a spiritual standpoint. Not possible. So, how do you get to your why? You listen to yourself, try and instill a few minutes of silence each and every day, or stillness. Okay, as much silence as you can, but stillness. Can you change it? Certainly. I think it would evolve. If you thought you wanted to do something in your 20s, as you age and learn more about yourself and life, that may morph into something else. Absolutely. Can you have more than one purpose? I have no idea, actually. That's an interesting question. I think no. That's my first inclination, is that I can't. So maybe someone else can hold a twofold up there, but I think that it's one encompassing piece of uh, resonance that you have, and maybe having two or more would dilute that, but it really depends on the context, I suppose. I think where people may struggle is seeing this in everyday application. And here's a small example. I have a very good friend in town who wanted to go test drive. It's not the Rivian, some other electric vehicle, just the other day, last week. And he says to me, "Hey, I'm going to go tomorrow. Appointment's at 4:00. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Sure, as long as it's within an hour and a half. I get back, feed the cats, all that good stuff." And I knew he was very busy. He runs a shop in town. He was just slammed. That was a Friday. We were going to go on Saturday afternoon. I was working all afternoon, reconfiguring my van. So I'm right in the midst of stuff. He's right in the midst of stuff. I call him in the afternoon and say, "Hey, is it still on for 4?" And he said, "Yeah, it's supposed to be 4. I wasn't able to confirm with them, but it should still be at 4." We set the appointment. I said, "Okay." And he said, "Do you want to go still?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. As soon as, as long as I'm back for dinner. I can't be too long, hour and a half." Well, the location is a hotel a little outside of town. So it's about a half hour there, 25 minutes there. So 25 minutes back, there's an hour. Test drive, usually, like when I test drove the Tesla several times in the earlier years, it was maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on if you had to wait. So there we're at an hour and a half, and we do the math, and he and I are in sync. And I said, "Well, how's your day going?" He goes, "Oh, it's just slammed." He goes, I'm just, running here and there, and tons of clients, tons of customers in." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Well, maybe I should just cancel and have it another time, because they come around from time to time." And I said, "Well, do you want to buy this car?" And he said, "No." He has a great car that he drives. He drives a Volvo. It's fantastic. And I said, "So you don't want one? Then what do you want to drive it for?" And he said, because I'm like, "What's your purpose? Like, what's your goal here?" And he goes, "Well, no, I don't. I just wanted to see what it was like, And so I said, "Well, therein lies the answer. Then no, it's, self-care. He's having a busy day. I'm having a full day, which I'm willing to cut to maintain our commitment, because spending time with him is more important than renovating my van. But he's had a very full day. He had a full day before that. So going is actually causing more drain than benefit. And his purpose is fulfilled within his work. So then we're like, it's an easy no. Yeah, we can go anytime. Like, we can call that company up and ask for a test drive, and they quarterly have it. And if you're not looking to buy it, then what's the rush? Like, why go today? So it was an easy, postponement. Yeah, we'll do it another time. No problem. He went back to work. I went back to work. All is good in the world. So it's things like that. Sometimes you need someone else to ask you. Like, I think he probably would have figured it out in a 2 minutes by himself and just bagged it. But because he had me involved, because I was going to go with him, he said, like, maybe looking for an out or looking for some support. If I said to him, what's your purpose? Like, why go and see it? He's like, I really want one of these. I want to drive fully electric within a couple years. This is part of my research. And, I want to get off the petroleum internal combustion vehicles. And I'd be like, okay, let's do it. And I would go down, I'd bring him a snack and get him a glass of water, and off we'd go. So it very much, your actions are predicated on what that purpose is, what that drive is, what that legacy is. So it really is important. It was a very easy decision. We didn't labor it for more than, 30 seconds. He said, well, should we still go? And I said, what's your purpose? Do you want to buy this car? And he's like, no. And he's like, we kind of just nodded. We were on the phone, but we're on the same page, and we're like, okay, another time. Easy, right? But see how influential that purpose is. Had he said, no, I want to be off the grid within 5 years. I'm leaning that way. I want to go electric or hybrid. I want to get away from gas. If whatever his desires were that were tied into his purpose or his legacy or the way of being that was aligned with him, if they're strong enough, that decision is so easy to make. Absolutely. Let's go. We can be there in plenty of time. We'll call and confirm, make sure that they have the car ready, and off we go. So simple. And there's no attachment tied to the either or. There's no wavering. There's no this or that. Oh, we could do this or that. And if you do miss something, say, shit, I'm super tired today. Self-care trumps that, because if I'm, not able to walk or not feeling good in my body, having an electric car or living off the grid is not so important, right? Self-care, always first, always. So had he said, yeah, it's important to me and I really want to do it, but the self-care is kind of nudging, I'd say, no problem. Let's give him a call. Tell him we can't make it today, reschedule it, get it on the books, and then you take care tonight. And we'll look at either next weekend or in the spring in May when they come back, or whatever the case may be. But your actions are easily driven, and there's no sluggishness to this. When you're in tune with what's important to you, you just go for it. It's there, and you trust. You commit before you have a plan, because your plan lies in knowing that is your North Star. So it's important to get clear on what your North Star is. I'll give you a little tip. For all of you out there who are struggling to find a why, to find your purpose, this will be the best interim legacy that you could leave. Okay. So if you don't have one, you're confused about one, try this one on and just wear it until you discover your own. It also is a propellant that will allow you to discover your own much faster. And it is, simply put, self-care. Focus on you, what's going on for you. Focus on your breath. Focus on your hydration. Focus on your daily movement, your nutritious meals, your quality sleep. Focus on your stable table. Focus on being, doing, and having in that order. Focus on being still. Focus on your breath. And that becomes your legacy, to leave the best possible imprint on the planet, that you knew yourself within your own body and you were healthy and felt great and you were representative for all of those that came after you or that walked alongside you. You were an inspiration to them to live a better life. Focus on your self-care. It will pay dividends to you, to your community, to your family, to your community, and to the world and the planet at large. I hope this has been of service to you. If you got a piece of gold from it, if anything resonated, please leave a comment, subscribe if that's an option for you. And also share it with a friend who you think may be a little lost right now in their purpose. I studied sales for years, and when I was working with Grant Cardone in Miami, the statistics of follow-up and exposure we're everywhere. And, it takes, 3 to 8 touches is where the majority of decisions are made. Most people, when they see something the first couple times, they want nothing to do with it. Even if internally there's something there, they repel it. It's change, it's different, it's new. People associate new with work or change with hardship. Actually, the most valuable skill I believe I have is being nimble and being able to shift with change and incorporate change and invite change into my life and into the many parts of my life. Yet 3 to 8 times. So the importance there is, if this is the first time you're hearing anything about mission or purpose or legacy. Mission we didn't really talk on, but that's another word that sometimes people utilize more in the business space, then you probably won't remember much of it. And 5 years from now, it will all come together. And this was the very first seed that was planted. Maybe it's your 7th or 8th time and you feel like you already know all this and this is not new information, which is true. Both are true. It's just presented maybe in a different way, in a different voice, and it really clicked for you and you got something from it. Either way, I'm here to be of service. If you know of anybody else that could find benefit in it, please do share. Because this is part of my legacy, I'm going to continue to share whether you like it or not. So there's that. I'd love it if you did like it, and I'd love it more so if you shared what worked for you, what has not worked for you, if you sent ideas in for what you wanted to hear a different perspective on. That's what I would love. Interaction. That's great. And you can text that to our wellness community. It's free texting. The number is 206-483-2960. And again, it's free texting community. Just text the word yes to 206-483-2960. You can shoot wins there, any struggles that you're having, any ideas for future podcasts. Feel free to drop them there. You can also put them in the comments if that's available to you. If you're on YouTube, you can do that. And yes, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with me. Whatever else you're doing, if you're multitasking, doing that, get her done. And I look forward to connecting on the next episode. Until then, be still, be awesome.